Hello there, and welcome to Casual Fridays, the podcast where themes and topics are discussed through personal anecdotes, personal experiences, and storytelling. My podcast is brought to you by my YouTube channel, I Read Aloud, and on my channel I usually read poetry, short stories, fairy tales, children's stories, fables, letters, and other shorter texts. So if you like such content, I hope you will subscribe to my channel. If you cannot find me automatically when you search for I Read Aloud on YouTube because I am still a young channel, you can, in the search box, write or place the @ sign with I Read Aloud, one word, and I will immediately pop up on your screen. And I thank you in advance for your subscriptions. Today's episode is titled About Happiness. And I had posted a poem about 2 weeks ago by Amy Lowell titled Happiness. And in that poem, she had envisioned happiness as this all-elusive, hard-to-find, abstract idea that she would even die to reach. And because of this darker envisionment of happiness, I thought I would like to do an episode in my podcast that would try and search for the attainable happiness. How can we actually work towards reaching happiness in a practical way? And that is basically what this episode is about today. If you're watching me on YouTube, I'm going to leave a link to the description, a link to the poem by Amy Lowell in the description box below. Of course, the quest for happiness has been on the minds of so many people over time, since the beginning of time. So basically the question, what is happiness, is equivalent to the question of why are we here, and how was the world formed, and is there a God, and all these main and major questions that are always wondered about by humanity. It has been searched for and discussed and researched by scholars, philosophers, writers, poets, religious people, and even the regular human, of course. And there have been so many theories that have been conjured, and they are all so true. Every idea I've come across in my mini research was actually something that was experienced by someone and had led them to happiness. Let's go through a few of these theories. Celestial religions believe that oneness with God is the path to happiness. And so basically through intensive prayer, meditation, you follow the path of Sufism, Nirvana, whatever other paths there are that actually help you delve deep into your soul and reach a heightened spiritual state where you can actually be one with God. This is actually what happiness is about. And it is true, it has been experienced by so many people, but I find this is not something attainable for every single human being, because we are caught up in everyday life, we have so many things going on, and this requires so much time and effort and dedication to reach this state of oneness with God. So I'm going to scratch this theory out for us as something practical to do and something that's easily done for the average person to find happiness. And now there are altruistic people such as Mother Teresa, the Dalai Lama, who actually believed and stated that compassion and love towards your own self and towards others is actually the path to happiness. And I am sure that both Mother Teresa and the Dalai Lama and everyone who works extensively with people who are underprivileged, impoverished, displaced, who have, a lot of problems, survival problems and issues in this world, do live this altruistic life and do feel this great satisfaction, this great happiness in helping other people. And we can do this to some extent in our everyday lives, that is true. We can, as much as possible, reach out to people around us, people we meet, We can help the homeless as much as we can. We can do some community service, some volunteer work, and that is all beautiful. But again, I find that this will only bring us small sparks of joy, because again, we are engrossed in our everyday lives. We have work, family, a lot of responsibilities, and so even if we do try to be altruistic, it is on a kind of a very tight schedule, unless you work at an NGO, or you work, this is actually your line of work, or you have dedicated your life to altruism, then that would be a different story. Taoists believe in flow, the flow of life. You give up control, and then life flows to you, and beautiful things flow to you, including happiness. And so when you are calm and you don't feel you need to control everything, you live a more peaceful life, and then beautiful things flow to you. And I find this to be a beautiful concept. I do believe that it is achievable by people who have a bit more time to themselves, I think, than people who are stuck in the daily grind. This is something a bit more attainable, I feel, than the previous two paths to happiness, I find personally. But it also requires some dedication. It requires you checking yourself all the time. It requires a bit of meditation as well. So if you have some time to yourself and you're able to practice Taoism, this is something that could work for some of you, I am sure. Now, many scientists, researchers, and psychologists believe that thoughts bring happiness or unhappiness. And here we have moved more from the spiritual theories into a more physiological one. And it is true, you can catch yourself spiraling into negative thoughts, into pessimism, anxiety, and fear. Now you have to be careful to catch yourself sooner rather than later, because you could spiral into these thoughts for days if you let yourself and allow yourself. So you have to teach yourself to catch yourself earlier on in these moments, and then you could just take a breath, tell yourself, what am I doing? I am either thinking of past things that I cannot change, or I am fearing something in the future that hasn't happened yet, and that doesn't have to happen in the first place. It's just my fears playing tricks on my mind. And here you could actually try and switch into a more positive mindset, where you whatever topic you're thinking about, you try and look at it more positively, maybe find a solution, maybe try and deal with your fear and see that it has no basis. And there are different ways that you can work with this and put yourself into a more positive mindset, that is for sure. But is it really, when you control your thoughts and you change your mood, is it really happiness, all the happiness? I find it is one way, like one step towards happiness, but is it really happiness? And then you have those who believe that happiness is either money, wealth, health, family, love, or maybe all four combined and balanced. So the idea is that it is true, we do need a balance of these four things in our lives, these four ideologies, these four elements. But I want to ask you something. There are so many people who have achieved all of this, and yet they commit suicides. And the question is, does all this, the health, the wealth, the family, the love, does it bring you happiness? And the question is, does happiness come from something outside of you? Food for thought. There are also those who believe that laughter brings happiness. And actually there is something called yoga de rire, or laughter yoga. And I actually follow a lady on TikTok, her name is Linda Leclerc. And this is not a collaboration. She's not paying me to say her name, but she's really a wonderful lady, and you should give her a follow, I think. And she actually, practices and teaches how to laugh, to change your mood, and to find to have a lighter existence, let's say. And it's a beautiful practice and a mood changer, and basically it kind of has the same effect as watching a funny comedian or a good comedy show or a comedy movie. And this is really great. Of course, it puts you in a better mood, but again, my question is this happiness? It is a path towards some happiness, but is it really happiness, like the all-encompassing happiness we always are trying to find? So let me tell you how I view happiness. And in order to tell you my theory, I want to delineate, distinguish between joy and happiness. Because I find that happiness is this intense, energetic surge. And there's an anonymous quote that says, happiness comes in waves, it'll find you again. And so if it is a wave, if it's this intense energetic surge, it cannot be sustained for long periods of time. It comes and goes. Now, I felt this surge of happiness when, for example, I held my nieces and my nephew in my arms for the first time when they were born. I felt it when I held my degree after years of study. I felt when I got my driver's license in my hand. I felt it when I thought I was in love at some point in my life. When I first got on a plane. So this is kind of like excitement, again, a spike of energy, intense energetic surge, a wave, whatever you want to call it. And it is beautiful, but it is not sustainable for long periods of time. Joy, on the other hand, is a much calmer emotion that is rooted in satisfaction and peace. And for example, I've experienced joy when I've spent a few hours with a friend, talking it out, discussing issues that were on my mind, having a pleasant time over a drink or some food. I felt joy when I've held a sleeping baby and watched it sleep for a while, and I would be in awe and in admiration of this tiny being that will become a full-grown human at one point. I have felt joy watching a lover or a partner talk and speak while acknowledging all their quirks, all their faults, and feeling love towards them. And I felt joy when watching a sunset with the sound of waves crashing on the shore. I've also felt joy in simple tasks, things that I do, coloring in a coloring book, writing a contract when I used to work in contracts, and even though as I would be writing the contract I could be frustrated at some points, but the end result would be satisfaction, and therefore I would feel joy with that satisfaction. And really any sense of accomplishment brings me joy. So in a sense, accomplishment brings satisfaction, brings joy into your life as well. I think my favorite quote that I found throughout my mini research was by Iris Murdoch, and she says, "One of the secrets of a happy life is continuous small treats." And I find that to be fascinating and so true. It embodies the most attainable form of happiness, I believe. Because you could find joy at different times of your day through small things. You can have small achievements that give you joy, small moments of calm that give you joy, a few moments of gratitude to give you joy. When you switch your thoughts to positive thoughts, you could find joy. And without realizing it, you accumulate. I mean, if you think about it, you accumulate, let's say 2-3 moments of joy a day, and maybe, I don't know, 10 moments of happiness, this a huge spike of happiness a year, 6 months, I don't know. But little by little, you look back and you find that you've actually led a joyous life, and therefore you've had many joyous moments with several spikes of happiness in between, and ultimately this leads to a happy life. And that for me is what happiness is all about. This brings me to the end of this episode. Next week our topic is about taking yourself out, and I hope you will tune in then. Until then, I will send you all my love, and I wish you a lovely weekend. See you next Friday. Take care.